We've been talking about the offense a lot here lately on Mike Trout Sports, but let's dive into that defense and the Steelers possibly having one of the best front sevens they've had in quite some time.
Power takes an approach as a coach.
Let's go. Let's go.
It's a field back block, and that's
the guy that rolls his body around.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's dive into that defense and talk about that front seven. And we're not even talking about the secondary at all, really, here in this pod. We're just going to talk about that front seven and what the potential for the Pittsburgh Steelers really truly is and how significant of a contribution they could really make and really protect the back end of that Steelers defense and make them even better than what I think they can be on paper. When you look at the Steelers and what they did in the front seven of that defense, it's tremendous, especially along that defensive front where you see guys that are new additions like the Y.A. Blacks, the Derek Harmons. You look at the guys that they drafted also like Jack Sawyer. You look at all these players, the Nick Herbigs that could potentially take a step, TJ Watt, a steady veteran, once they work that contract out with him, which will get done for sure. You look at Alex Highsmith, who when TJ Watt's out on that field, he's just tremendous. He's a steady, tremendous player, a guy that can make splash plays, a guy that can make a big difference in a game, a guy that can make those game-changing type plays. And you look at Alex Highsmith and you look at his motor, it just goes and goes and goes. The guy is tough as nails. The guy can hit the quarterback. The guy can play the run. He can intercept the football so he can play the pass. We've seen it all from Alex Highsmith. So that's potentially really, really good. And then you have the ageless one, Cameron Hayward, a guy that had a really, really good season last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though at his advanced age. But you look at what the Steelers have there with a Keanu Benton, a guy that's probably going to take yet another step. So you're mixing right now along that defensive front, that front seven for the Pittsburgh Steelers in their 3-4 base defense. You're looking at a solid mix of veteran presence and really, really young, exciting talent that could potentially be limitless, really, for the Pittsburgh Steelers if utilized correctly and if those guys do develop into what we all believe they can. And again, guys, a lot of this is on paper, but a lot of it isn't. You have proven production from guys like TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, even Keanu Benton. You've seen a lot of production out of him during his short time as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Herbig, yes, he needs to tighten up that run defense, but man, as a pass rusher, that guy can make some splash plays. That guy can get it done, and he's an exciting player that has a really, really quick first step. You look at Alex Highsmith, he's done it. So yeah, there's a ton of guys that have done it. And then you look at the defensive guys on the very, very, very front, on those down guys, those guys that are in the trenches. And when I said about the YAs and the Derek Harmons, those guys that are new additions, but you look at how many players that they have right now to choose from, how great the competition is going to be for the Steelers in those trenches right now. There's 13 players, I believe, some crazy number off the top of my head, that are going to be vying for position inside of that room, that they are going to be busting their ass to try to get in there and make a name for themselves. And if they don't work out with the Steelers, they want to make a name for themselves to get picked up by another football team. So the battles are just going to be tremendous at Latrobe, Pennsylvania for those guys that are going to be just killing themselves to find a spot, to find a role inside of that 3-4 defensive scheme for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you look at what the Steelers have done. They've really, really focused on the trenches. They really have. And it may not seem like they have the depth, at least offensively, in the trenches, but they've really focused there too. But defensively, the trenches, that front seven really for the Steelers has been a tremendous focus, and they've understood that some of their players were aging, the Cameron Haywards and the TJ Watts. But those guys can still get it done. But they were proactive in their approach by bringing in all of that other younger talent. And sometimes that's not the sexy move, the splash move. Every fan out there is most of the time wanting a skill position player or, you know, some big name like that, that's a touchdown guy, you know. That's not how you build a football team. And I know a lot of fans don't see past the skill position guys, and that's okay. You know, half the fans out there don't even know the names of guys along the trenches. But those are the most important parts. Those are the most meaningful pieces of your football team in reality. Because I don't care who you have at quarterback. If your offensive line doesn't block and can't protect the quarterback, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you have Lamar Jackson back there. If you can't protect him at times, he's going to go back there and get killed. He can't run around forever. You know, you've got to protect the quarterback. But you look at the defensive front. If you don't have a solid defensive front that can play the run, that can apply pressure up through the middle, you can't win. You can't win. You cannot do really anything that you want to do defensively. And that applies also for the offense, like I said. So those big guys, if you're not down with them and really focusing on getting those guys in the building each and every year, replenishing the cupboard, constantly making sure that you have those guys in the building, tremendous maybe depth at all those positions. If that's not your main focus as a football team, you're misguided. You truly, truly are. And all the greats, man, know this. Everybody that's been a winner in this league knows this. And if you want to win ball games at any level, you have to be able to block. You have to be able to open up some lanes. You have to be able to cause disruption in the middle of that defense. You have to create a disruption on defense that prevents all this crazy running up the middle, gashing the defense for 12, 15 yards at a clip. You can't have those things. You know, the defensive front got to be able to apply the pressure. They got to be able to cause the disruption to make the quarterback uneasy back there, making their footwork, their timing, their rhythm, their anticipation, getting that off. That's the main goal, man. And if that can happen, that just benefits everybody. That benefits everybody from the linebackers back, and everybody's going to eat then. You're going to see those splash plays. You're going to see those turnovers. And we talk about where have the splash plays been really for the defense? You know, where have those game-changing plays been? You've seen some of them. But when that defensive front starts to wear down because they didn't have the depth that they really, really wanted throughout the season, you start to see less and less and less of that as the season goes on. You look at that 5-game losing streak. They didn't have those plays. Why? Because the depth was just lacking, and they just got wore down to a nub whenever they made it through to that part of the season. And you didn't get to see that. Why? Because they weren't effective at stopping the run. They weren't effective at causing disruption up the middle. That's why you go out in the draft and you get guys like Derek Harmon that have the best pass rush rate out of anybody in college football last year. That's why you get those guys. That's why you do that, because you want those guys to cause that pressure. You don't care if they hit home. You want them to hit home. But what you want to do is cause that disruption. Why? Because you have elite players on the edge. They're going to still be able to collapse in, all while pushing that back. You're going to force those guys, those quarterbacks, those running backs into the hands of the playmakers, into the guys that are superstars on your team right now. That's what you're going to do. And that's going to be the job of the Cameron Haywards, the Keanu Bettons, the Derek Harmons, the Y.A. Black. Just listen to that rotation. And if it works out, if those young guys work out, that could potentially be a really, really, really serious, dangerous defensive front, because they are going to be able to be very fresh throughout every ball game. They're going to remain very, very fresh throughout the back end of the season. Hopefully. This is all speculation, no doubt about it, because we have to see it executed. But these guys are going to be potentially really, really good if everything works out. And that is going to make this Steelers defense look dramatically different than you've seen. You hear the Colin Cowards out there talking about spending on defense, blah, blah, blah. I don't care where the money's spent. I just want good players. It is what it is. If you by chance get a young guy that you don't got to pay a ton to, okay, great. Maybe, now you invest a little bit more in your defense. Whatever. I don't know. The money, I feel like, works itself out eventually on both sides of the football. It is what it is. They just spent $33.5 million on bringing DK Metcalf in per season. So, I don't want to hear they don't spend on offense at all. They got a ton of young guys along the offensive front. Naturally, they're on their first contract, but they're exciting, high value, young players. So you don't got to spend there right now. So be it. It is what it is. I just want to see the guys that are young and fresh and can add the depth and start to learn and filter their way into that superstar role that the Pittsburgh Steelers have so desperately always wanted, with the Cam Haywards, the TJ Watts. They want those superstars up there. And you got to keep replenishing, like I said, the cupboard and bringing those guys along to keep filling those spots. And the time is now to add that young talent to those veterans, man. And I think the Steelers have done a really, really excellent job there. Could it be disaster? Absolutely, it could be. You could have injuries to some of your big name guys. You could have injuries to some of your young players that, you're really hoping that can develop and be contributors. Those things can happen for sure. But I think if you're the Steelers, and I think if you're a fan of the Steelers, you got to be really excited about this 2025 roster. Barring any catastrophic injuries, if this team can relatively remain healthy, I think there's a ton of good things that could happen. Yeah, this thing could fall off the rails, no doubt about it. Yeah, and, that's all we hear about is the bad. This could be this bad. This could be horrible. This could fall off the rails quickly. The Steelers could have their first losing season in forever. Aaron Rodgers is ancient, blah, blah, blah. Well, when you look at everything, man, I just don't think that that's the case. I think that there are some bright spots. I think the Steelers have done a fine job, and I think they've done a really fine job across that defensive front because that depth there is going to be really, really pivotal, guys. And when it gets down to the stretch and you're hitting into the playoff time, if the Steelers are able to be fresh there and they are able to stay healthy there, they're going to have an advantage, definite advantage, and they're going to be able to turn the ball over. They're going to be able to really dictate the line of scrimmage. They're not going to allow teams, especially if they're on the road, control the game through the run. They're going to have to throw the football against them. And I think the disruption potentially that defensive front could cause really could benefit the Steelers if you force a team into being really one-dimensional. If you force them into having the need to throw the football down in and down out because the run game is smothered. I think that could really potentially feed into the hands of guys like Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., just to name a few, Deshaun Elliott. I think that could really play into their strengths and really cause some significant game-changing turnovers, especially in playoff football, because those things really matter and can flip the script really, really quickly for opposing team or for the Steelers, really. So definitely the potential's there, guys. Definitely. And yeah, it is what it is. So I just wanted to bring that up today about that front seven, and it's probably one of the better ones we've seen in so long, just because of the depth and what the Steelers have done adding there. So I think that has to be something that needed to be pointed out and very exciting if you're a Steelers fan to look forward to. And I want you guys to really start to pay attention in Latrobe and watch those battles because those are going to be exciting. And the real story of the 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers, like it was similar to the 2024 Steelers, is how are the trench guys going to respond? How are those big men going to respond? Because that's going to really tell the tale of what this team can be. And I think the units, both offensively and defensively in the trenches, are vastly better, in my opinion, than they were a year ago. So I think you're going to see big dividends paid by that. And definitely it's exciting. So I apologize for not being live, but again, guys, we got to work this schedule out. I've been not even getting home till like 8:30, so by then I got to get everybody fed and all that shit, man. So it's been definitely a struggle to find some time to go live. So I'm going to try to figure that out. I'm going to try to get that done, and we're going to try to get our lives going again so we can get back on track. But again, we're in this dead period before training camp, so it's not a pressing issue right now. We'll get there. But definitely, I appreciate you guys for all your support on our long form content that we've been making here, our pre-recorded stuff. It's been absolutely awesome. So let's keep that up. Let's like, share, subscribe, follow us on TikTok, X, Facebook. Make sure you go. Everybody got a Facebook. Go over and like us on Facebook and follow us. And let's continue to grow those platforms so when we get back into full swing during the season and training camp, that we are getting it done all over the place on social media and really take this thing to the next level. So until then, till maybe tonight, I don't know, we'll see. But at some point, you will see me again. So I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace, my friends.
Will Power takes an approach as a coach.
Let's go. Let's go.
It's a field back block, and that's